I'm Richard Green, and I'm thinking about making thousands, tens of thousands of these video clips. I've got 32,800 pages of books I've written. They will gradually become available in ebook form. Probably sooner they'll be available in PDF, large page format form, my preferred format. But in addition to those, not in lieu of them, I'm thinking about some videos. About what? Not this hat, not the 230 strange suits of Japanese kimono material I've made, not the crank forward Tartar Uga F folding bicycle that I love and ride along the Tama River in Tokyo. More about how to live your life, how to live my life, what a good person is, what a person is, managing yourself, having a self, making that self a creative self, managing complexity, managing emotion, managing social, emotional, relational, imaginative intelligence, story science, game science, not game theory, gaming theory. Lots and lots of things that I've been working on. And I think the starting place is I went to the University of Chicago. A dean called me. I was in Xerox Palo Alto Research Center. I was at a bar. I was having a good conversation, and my cell phone rang. And it was an unknown number. And I don't know why I picked it up, but I did. And it was a dean from the University of Chicago Graduate School of Business offering me a job. And their salaries are crummy, and their computer systems are out of date, and they're very right-wing. And so I said, it's ridiculous. Let's not even waste any time talking about it. And he said, they're a prestigious institution, blah, blah, blah. And I think my friend came back to the table, and I would rather talk to him, so I blew him off. And then some months later, he came back. He had quadrupled the salary offer, and it had become interesting. My wife and I, in the meantime, had thought about going back to Japan, and I could be a professor there. There weren't a lot of other good jobs for foreigners in Japan, but being a professor wasn't too bad. So I said yes, accepted the offer, and ended up in front of some MBAs at the University of Chicago. Never planned to be a professor. No preparations, no notes. And I had two books, though. One book was already called A Work of Genius by the founders, two of the founders of the business school at the University of Chicago, in writing. So they liked that. And so I began teaching based on that book, Global Quality, it's called. And I didn't know how to teach. I didn't know what education was. And I bought 200 books on what education is from Amazon, and read them, and I hated them all, every single one of them. Habermas, Gautama, Arendt, everybody. It was all giant personal opinions, and everybody, John Dewey, all these people said an educated person is somebody like me, and what the next generation should become is should have more people like me. And number one, that's obviously false, because it would be a really ugly, boring world. And number two, it would be a very contentious world if everybody else was like each other. And number three, natural selection-wise, it'd be a really dangerous world, probably a dead one. So I knew that was wrong. And I knew all these self-important, narcissistic, self-praising, pompous bastard philosophies were not a safe basis for deciding what a good person or an educated person was. So their 200 books were junk. Some sort of psychological ego problem that they had as an individual, and worthless for the rest of us. I couldn't find anybody in the history of the world who defined educatedness and what a good person was on a basis of any empirical performance. I mean, it all started with Socrates and Plato arguing logically about what a good person is. I remember in undergraduate school reading that and saying, well, you really needed to be an ignorant Greek 2,000 years ago to be impressed by that stuff. And then to find out that British colleges, Cambridge and Oxford in 2000, still trusted that kind of logic, trusted it so much that they invested for 30 years in the prologue language of artificial intelligence, hoping that intelligence would be logical like Plato was, because that's what British Empire was based on, logical clarity and superiority upper classes of England. And I didn't think that logical superiority was a moral or civilizational superiority. I thought it was a delusion. And I think most of us agree it's a delusion. However, I was very interested in the question, but not the answers I was getting. I couldn't find any good answers. So gradually I realized that my MBAs were very well connected socially. I mean, really well connected socially. And they knew the top people in 40 different nations around the world and in zillions of professions. And why don't everybody, all of my MBAs, make a list of who they know in 63 different professions, very well distributed in 41 different nations that they came from. And then let's go give questionnaires and interviews to those people about who's best in your field. How did they get to be best? And then analyze that and come up with excellent sciences. That is, all the ways to be best in just about any field. So we did that. We ended up with 54 different ways to be best in biology, in dance, in restaurant openings, in inventions, in every 63 different fields. That's the Excellent Science Research Project at the University of Chicago. And inside those 54, 18 of them involved novelty, creativity sciences, bringing the new into the world. And 2 of those novelty, creativity sciences was 60 models of creativity we found in the 8,000 people we interviewed. 54 models of innovating we found in the people we interviewed. One of those models of innovating was 420 dynamics in Silicon Valley that we got by interviewing 150 founders of ventures in Silicon Valley. And another one was 420 natural selection dynamics we got by interviewing 150 of the world's greatest biologists. That became those levels: excellent sciences, novelty sciences, creativity models, innovation models, and natural selection in Silicon Valley dynamics. That became the beginning of a whole development.